Well, I don't think it was a budget particularly for business. That's one of the key things we're interested in locally. The levels of government borrowing now, which I think is probably equivalent to more than all government borrowing for the last 300 years, is what the government's committed to now. And the concern with that for businesses, this means longer term, an increased tax burden in a very difficult world economy, and that worries me tremendously, particularly for local businesses and businesses generally. That's a real concern. But even looking in the short term, there wasn't a lot in the budget for business. If we look at immediate things, automatic rate relief on the small business rate scheme could have been put in by the government. As you know, we've been running a campaign locally to try and get local firms to be aware of the small business rate relief scheme. Again, it could have been made automatic. That wasn't done, which would have helped business. We've got a 2% rise in fuel duty in September, again on top of other rising energy costs, again not very helpful. And the 50% rate of tax, again, we're taxing, often successful people who start businesses, will be the higher earning people, and now we're disincentivising them by making the tax burden higher for just the people who need to put the commitment in and actually create business and create opportunity. So generally, it wasn't good in the short term, and it certainly is a real concern long term in terms of the tax burden that we face both as individuals and also for businesses as well.
So there's all this impact upon the day-to-day running of Thurrock Council?
Well, obviously we're looking at going into some very tight spending rounds now in the public sector going forward because of the level of borrowing the government's committed to now, and they're looking for efficiencies. We have delivered a lot of efficiency as a council ourselves over the last 4 years, something like over £6 million we've put back to government. But again, things are going to be tight, and it's going to require decisions to be made and priorities to be looked at. But we're committed to running a very efficient council that's focused on resident priorities, and we'll be wanting to maintain that. But again, we'll be looking at what efficiency we can deliver. But certainly the pressure will be on over the next few years because of the level of public sector debt we have now as a country.
To its knees, and this budget was just a sign of desperation by a government that's out of ideas and has no fresh agenda when it comes to the country's finances. As with all Labour governments, they've run out of money and they brought the country to the brink of bankruptcy.
And in respect of for young people, would you say it's even worse?
The reason I particularly wanted to get the chance to speak about the budget was because I'm absolutely furious how this government has handled the budgets in relation to how the level of the country's debt is going to affect my generation. My generation is going to be the one that picks up the bill for this government's failures. Every newborn child in this country now is born with £22,500 worth of debt. The level of government debt is more than every single government put together. We're spending more money now, borrowing more money now than the country borrowed to beat Napoleon, the Kaiser and Hitler all together. It's just an astronomical set of circumstances that the country finds itself in because of this government's poor handling of the country's finances, and any credibility they had for economic competence is dead along with New Labour. For example, they're reducing by £600 million the amount of money the country allocates to university grants, the university departments. And next year the amount of young people applying for university is increasing, hence the circumstances surrounding the recession is the reason why young people are looking to get into university more so this year. And the government's answer to that is that they say no, we're going to reduce the number of people who can apply to university, which is just a ridiculous situation we could be in, where we've got young people who are talented and bright and have aspirations and now being told the door is closed and you can't go to university. And it just seems beyond me that not only are we trying, the government hindering young people's aspirations, they're also then expecting us to pick up the bill for their failures, and it really infuriates me.
So you would say, as a councillor in Thurrock, which has only 10% of all students go on to university, you're saying that what the government have done are probably to try and make that 10%, 5% or 2%?
Well, I don't see how that by taking money out of the very section of the economy that's going to be able to fix the mess that we've got here, the very people who are going to be able to fix the roof on the country's broken finances is going to be penalised to try and claw back some money from these disastrous government finances. The logic just seems beyond me. There are so much waste in government and countless expensive schemes that the government has outlined for the past 12 years, and now we get to a situation where we're going to try and claw back money off the people who are going to actually bring us through this recession. George Osborne yesterday unveiled an exciting policy for young people at the Conservative Party Spring Conference, whereby any incoming Conservative government would actually look to reward young people who are looking to do master's degrees at university, but specialising in sciences, technologies and engineering, whereby we can use precious resources to encourage young people to stay in university and actually get degrees whereby it'll be beneficial, strongly beneficial to the country as a whole in the future, to ensure that we have a decent economic